Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. All right, today I'm here with kind of a low effort video. At the time of recording this, I am a little bit under the weather. Some super bad allergies this year. The pollen is just absolutely insane this year. But anyhow, I did want to get something out and get something recorded. So we are doing a little bit of show and tell. And we all like show and tell in school, right? So and in this video, we're just going to look very quickly at some recent purchases that I have made to possibly feature on the Dungeon Dive. Some of these are for sure going to be featured, and we'll talk about those as we go. Some of them might be featured. So if you want to see one of these on the channel, please comment below and let me know. So let's start with the big stack here. And let's start with one that we are definitely going to be taking a big look at. And that is probably going to be a full, maybe 3 videos, maybe more, a little series on a deep dive into Machina Arcana. And that is going to be with the new To Eternity expansion, which was written by friend of the channel, Andy Lennon. And I want to say a big thank you to Andy and to Uri, the main designer, for sending me a deluxe version of the game. I had only ordered the upgrade and the new expansion, but they were super kind and also sent me a new version of the game and both of the books, the Machina Arcana Codex Aeternum and Codex Arcanum. And we're going to be taking a really detailed look at both of these. Andy Lennon wrote the Codex Arturnum, I believe, Aeternum. And he also wrote the new expansion, which has some really cool mechanisms in there. And I'm probably going to spoil some of them in the video, so I'll make sure people know about that. But yeah, we are going to be taking a pretty big look at Machina Arcana, a game that is in my top 10. An absolutely fantastic board game. If you haven't yet picked up Machina Arcana, I highly recommend it. Robinson Crusoe. So I just picked up this the Mystery Tales expansion, and I have the base game. I bought the base game last year. I'm really interested in this expansion because it seems a little more my style in that it's kind of a little more supernatural. So I'm really looking forward to learning this game. This year, I'm going to learn 2 kind of big, somewhat complex solo games, Robinson Crusoe and Nemo's War. So really looking forward to learning this. Very intimidated because all I've heard is just how hard and difficult the game is. And you guys know I'm not a very good gamer. I kind of suck at games, and especially at keeping rules straight. So it should be interesting to learn. And if you guys have any tips or tricks or cool videos to point me in a good direction to really get a good grasp on the game, please let me know. But I am looking forward to playing Robinson Crusoe, especially with this expansion. I think this expansion sounds really, really cool. And next up, we will take a look at Zervia, I believe it's called. It's a Polish game, or based on Slavic folklore, I believe. And this was recently delivered from Kickstarter. It's from Kaliba Games there. I would show you the back of the box, but the way that the components sit inside, if I turn it over, everything's going to spill out, and it took me a long time to get everything organized. So we'll take a look at the back of the box when I get to the game. This game, I think, could be very cool. However, in organizing the components, my first read of the instructions, of the rules, and perusing the Board Game Geek page leads me to believe that this is going to be a very difficult game to learn, not just because of some of the poor translation issues, of which there seem to be a lot, but there also seems to be just a lot of issues in general with the rules, how they are presented, and some rules missing. So I've heard it's worth the effort, though. I've heard it actually is a pretty interesting adventure game that does some cool new things. But even I was watching the designer, I was watching Kaliba's YouTube page, and they were explaining the game, and there were some comments even under their explanation of the game of things they got wrong during their own instructional video on how to set up the game. So I don't have a lot of confidence in this game, but I've heard it's worth the effort. So we're going to see. We're going to see about Jedvia. It does look cool. It looks like it has a whole bunch of really cool encounters, and especially non-combat encounters. Cool stuff to see during an adventure. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the large stack here of littler things. First up is going to be this zine game here, Dungeon Plumbers by Wayne Robert. Wayne Robert was kind enough to send me a copy of this. I agreed to take a look at it. However, what I didn't know when I agreed to take a look at this supplement is that it is really kind of strongly and specifically designed to be used with old school essentials. At the time of filming this video, I do not have any old school essentials books, things. However, I did just back that newest Kickstarter. I got the original box set. I didn't get any of the new stuff, but I got the original box set of old school essentials. So I am going to hold off on doing a detailed look at this until I get that box set. This sounds pretty cool. It is a supplement. It is a it's a setting and a supplement of like diesel punk setting. And it does have some solo rules, so I will be doing at least one little playthrough and talking about how this supplement works on solo. But it seems really neat, and the recommended media, lots of cool stuff that I like: Sky Captain and the World Tomorrow, City of Lost Children, Hellboy, Rocketeer, Dick Tracy, Final Fantasy, Captain America, Delicatessen, Mad Max, Brazil, Dark City, Judge Dredd, Fido, Super Mario Brothers. I mean, this is just a list of like things that people who watch the Dungeon Dive have probably seen. So it sounds interesting. It looks cool. It has some interesting ideas and art and different ways to have these kind of like dungeon crawl adventures in a sewer system. So looking forward to that, but I'm not going to be diving into this until I get some experience with old school essentials. Coming up next are two little RPG kind of zine books here. And these are going to be, I think I'm going to do a video on comparing both of these because they're both super rules light. And that is, of course, Into the Odd by Chris McDowell and Cairn, who, let's see, who wrote Cairn? Written by Yochai Gal. And that was also right there with a thanks to Chris McDowell for Into the Odd. So I'm looking forward to exploring both of these and how they work as solo RPGs, and they seem really rules light. So I know I've read some stuff about Into the Odd, and I've heard that is pretty good. I have watched, I think, one video. I think Deborah from Geek Gamers has done a video on Cairn. So yeah. So both of these will be compared in a single video. This just arrived. I'm really looking forward to this zine RPG little box set called Lost Aeons. I think this looks really interesting. Learning how to adapt this to solo play. I don't think it will be too difficult, but this is kind of a game about exploring strange alien worlds, and that sounds right up my alley. Lots of exploration, lots of discovery. And in this box set, you get the Lost Aeons player's guide. So this has kind of all of your rules. I really like the way that these character sheets look. So really looking forward to getting into this one. I like all the colors and stuff. So you get the rule book, you get your GM tools. There are a lot of random tables to roll on. So that's why I think that this should lend itself well to kind of some solo RP sessions. And then we also get this this book of the Finns, which is kind of like the world guide. So really looking forward to diving into Lost Aeons. This will definitely be featured on the channel at some point. And coming up next is another new RPG purchase of mine, and that was Mazes. And Mazes comes in 4 different zines here. You have book 1, which is Sword, book 2, which is Sorcery. book 3, which is Maze, and then book 4, which is Monster. And this RPG sounds very unique and quite interesting to me. The way that the characters work is I've never seen, I'm sure there are games like it, but I do not know of any others. So if there are some, please let me know. But the way the characters work is that each character class is, you only roll 1 die. So if you are some kind of, I think a wizard, you roll a d4. If you're a fighter, you roll a d10 for everything that you do. And the way that the numbers work out on the dice, you have different chances to be better at certain things depending on the dice that you roll. So books is one of the stats. Books, boots, blades, and bones. So if you are books are for like intelligence checks. So if you roll a 2 or a 3, you're better off at solving an intelligence check or beating an intelligence stat or something like that. So a wizard rolling a d4 has a really good chance of rolling a 2 or a 3. And then you also have a 1, which is a class ability. So if you roll a 1, then you can do your class ability. And if you roll the top of your die, 4, 6, 8, or 10, then you do a crown ability. So really interesting dice system. So you have, where are the different classes here? So you have the Paragon. The Paragon is the D4. The Vanguard is the D6. The Fighter is the D8. And the Sentinel is the D10. And those are the only dice you use whenever you pick that particular character. And everything is kind of built around that system. So it's a different system than any that I have played. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. And one of the things I do like also is the characters. There's no experience points, and you're more supposed to like build a pool of characters and then take certain ones out on certain adventures. There are no experience points because this game really tries to focus on the feeling of sword and sorcery in the 70s. And in those books, you know, Conan, Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, Elric, Cain, all of the great sword and sorcery heroes, Red Sonja, they didn't really progress. They started at a certain power level and pretty much remained at that power level throughout all of their careers with very little power change for most of the characters. And so the idea of starting out weak and progressing to like godlike status in a lot of RPGs is kind of the direct opposite of sword and sorcery fiction. And that's one of the main reasons why I think DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classics, is not a good simulation of sword and sorcery fiction at all. And I am so baffled by people who think DCC is like a great depiction of Appendix N and sword and sorcery fiction, because it's not. I mean, your characters, when they start out in that game, are super weak, okay? Sword and sorcery heroes are never weak. They are never in any real danger. Conan is always going to prevail. Elric will prevail. Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, they always prevail. And they don't change. And so this does seem to kind of capture that idea in a pretty interesting way. Same as how Scarlet Heroes, when you make your character, your first level character is a totally badass sword and sorcery character, just like they are in the books. Not like in DCC RPG, where if you sneeze wrong, you can die. I guess eventually I am going to have to do my why I don't think DCC RPG is a good sword and sorcery game. That should get me a lot of hate mail, because I know DCC RPG fans are rabid. But okay, so next up is Dungeon Solitaire. I finally picked this up. This has been something that I've been meaning to pick up for some time. I got the deck of tarot cards and some really nice, I wish they were actually tarot sized, but they are just kind of like normal playing card size, but they are very nice deck of cards here with some of the good tarot arcana, and I think a normal deck of poker cards as well. And then I did pick up the original book for Dungeon Solitaire, which has a whole bunch of different dungeon-themed solitaire games to play with this deck. And they are a little more complex than I thought. There's quite a bit to this book, different ways to set up, different ways to play the game, different kinds of campaigns, different kinds of one-off scenarios. So I will be diving into this definitely, and I am looking forward to it. It's something that's been on my radar for a long time. A new purchase here for Alone Against Fear. And I also have the book out here because I was relearning the game to run through this adventure here, The Coming of the Dark Templars. And for those of you who are into kind of Italian exploitation cinema and remember the Tomb of the Blind Dead, the whole Blind Dead series of movies where wronged Templars came back from the dead to get revenge. This is a whole adventure about Templars, the Blind Dead, the Revenge of the Blind Dead, Tomb of the Blind Dead, all the Blind Dead movies. So I will be featuring that on camera for sure. Another one that I'm really excited about. You guys know how much I like the idea of innkeeping in games and fantasy inns. And this is a game by Derek A. Kamal, and that is The Broken Cask. It is a solitary innkeeping game. Now, what's cool about this game is it is not an inn tycoon game. You're not worried about the finances. You are kind of worried about the story of your inn and your tavern, and the people that come and the people that go, and the heroes that come in, and the heroes that go on quests to maybe help you secure some funds for your inn. You're not worried about making money and paying your staff. It's not a min-max financing game. It is a game of the kind of like the adventurers that go and come to your inn and your tavern. So really looking forward to checking that out. This is a weird little oddity here, an older game from Z-Man Games, and that is called Quest: Time of Heroes, Attack of the Orcs. This was a one versus many game that was kind of a RPG in a box with a few scenarios to run through. It's got like standees with miniature combat, like skirmish style combat. It's got some interesting things going on. I've heard it's not very good. I think famously the Dice Tower gave it a terrible review, but it looks a little interesting to me. I'm interested in checking this one out at some point. Probably one here that needs no introduction. I know this is very, very popular amongst RPG players, and that is Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City. Pretty much an RPG made to go into the look-alike Mobius world. Kind of a game where you are trekking through a weird psychedelic desert, and you have a caravan of adventurers, and you're trying to get from one location to the next. And almost the entire book is filled with nothing but locations and things that can happen at the locations. It seems like it could translate to solo play pretty well, so that is why I got it. I do wish that I would have splurged for the hardback because the paperback, I guess I just didn't think about it. It's not going to lie open flat without creasing the spine. So that kind of sucks. I am going to probably just have to bite the bullet and crease the spine on this one to get it to lay open. Next up is a small box of cards. We'll take a look at this in conjunction with some solo role-playing stuff in the future. But this is a box of challenges and rewards that that a DM could give out. I got it as kind of a storytelling and reward system for solo role-playing. I'm not sure how well they will adapt to the kinds of games that I like to play, but we will take a closer look at these at another point. And the penultimate look today is at the War of the Worlds from DVG Games. So this game was sent to me by my buddy Dennis, friend of the channel, who recently got a job at DVG Games. And he thought that I might like to take a look at this. Now, it is more of a war game. It's a solo war game based on the War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, a book that I like quite a bit. I also really like the Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise movie. I know it gets kind of gets a lot of hate these days, especially for the ending, but I think the movie's pretty fantastic, actually. But Dennis thought that I would like this game because he says it does tell a pretty interesting story while you are playing the war game, and it doesn't look super complex. I think it's on the low end of the complexity. Game scale, strategic and tactical, individual tripods, players 1, complexity low. So 30 to 90 minutes per game. So I'm looking forward to this. I've never really played anything like this. and I'm excited to check something new out. And speaking of checking something new out, if you guys remember last year, I think it was last year, I took a look at History Maker Golf, which was a game that I liked quite a bit. I've actually played it a handful of times since making that video. And the last time my dad came into town, we played a game of it together and really enjoyed it. So I reached out to play and asked if I could take a look at the baseball game, because I also kind of like baseball. I used to be really into baseball, and baseball season is starting up here. And so I wanted to check out their baseball game. So we will be taking a look at that on a Now for Something completely different video. I know that the golf game got some good comments. I think there's some cool stuff going on in Play Classics in their sports game series. I like how they focus on telling the story of the sport, the story of the competition, and not just a game about min-maxing stats and following stats. So, all right, guys. Well, that was my show and tell. That was my Friday show and tell. I guess it's not Friday, but I think we used to have show and tell on Fridays at school. That's what I thought when I was in elementary school. But yeah, so if you really want to see something on the channel, leave a comment below. Let me know if you know of some cool things about any of the stuff that I mentioned today. Please let me know. And thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.